Notley's NDP government has been caught lying about the power purchase agreements by the Wildrose official opposition. Now, the NDP are lying about when they knew about a clause the NDP call the Enron clause in those contracts. Now, the power purchase agreements are contracts between the Alberta government and Alberta's energy retailers. Now, those are the companies who buy power from something called the balancing pool and then sell that power to the public. The power purchase agreements, or PPAs as they're called, have a standard operating clause in them that says that if the government, through legislation or by some other policy, ends up making the contracts to buy and sell power unprofitable or more unprofitable, the companies can then cancel their contracts. The NDP called this clause the Enron clause just to smear it with the stink of that American power company that committed a massive fraud and then went broke. But it's not really an Enron clause. It's just a standard clause that acts as a safeguard for any company doing business with the government. Let's just imagine for a second, because this is a little tough to get your head around when you're thinking about power. Let's pretend you run a company that buys widgets from the government-run widget co-op, and then you sell those widgets to the public. And that's the only way you can sell widgets to people. One day, all of a sudden, the government puts a $100 a barrel tariff on your widgets. You should be able to get out of that contract because the government just changed the terms of the contract after the fact, simply because they have the power to do that. Without these clauses, no one would ever do business with the government ever again. Now let's go back to reality. The NDP made the contracts with Alberta's energy retailers unprofitable or more unprofitable when they introduced their climate leadership plan and carbon tax. And now the government wants to sue themselves to change the contracts with these companies after the fact. And all these canceled contracts could cost the Alberta taxpayers over $2 billion. Deputy Premier Sarah Hoffman has been the face of this issue from the very beginning, because Energy Minister Marg McQuaig-Boyd is basically invisible. Now, Hoffman has been saying all along that the NDP just found out about the Enron profitability clause in March of 2016. It's right here in their court filings in their lawsuit against themselves to be able to rewrite those contracts. It says in the court filings the existence of the August 2000 letter, now that's the letter detailing the Enron clause, was not communicated to the ministers by officials of the government of Alberta or otherwise until senior government officials first learned of its existence in a mid-March 2016 meeting with the chief executive officer of the balancing pool. But is that true? Did the NDP really just learn about that clause mid-March? Well, absolutely not. And the Wildrose found all the proof. Just watch this amazing breakdown from Wildrose MLA Don McIntyre here.
In 11th of September, the balancing pool releases a public report called The Impact of Greenhouse Gas Regulation Changes. And it showed that the changes to the Specified Gas Emitters Regulation, known as SEGR, may push some PPA costs above the expected pool prices, specifically highlighting the potential for termination under the change in law provision. The power companies were warning of PPA impacts. On the 18th of September, TransCanada sends its submission to Dr. Leach. They note that buyers could terminate if policies are implemented before the expiry of the PPAs. Depending on the timing of implementation, the impacted parties could be PPA buyers or asset owners.
The NDP have been caught lying. They learned about the PPAs as early as September of 2015 and still proceeded with the climate leadership plan anyway, even after the NDP were warned by the power companies about exactly what would happen. Now the NDP are trying to rewrite the contracts and fix the mess they created after the fact. The NDP just did the same thing with the water bomber contracts. They changed the terms of those contracts with budget cuts, and that led to all the contracts being canceled and then rewritten a little bit too late. This is how the NDP operate. They're screw-ups, and they will lie, outright lie, to cover it up. Right now, it looks like they're lying in sworn court documents, and they're lying to the public about what they knew and when they knew it. They're liars, and now they're caught. And I hope the public is paying attention, because we can be sure the power company lawyers definitely are. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn-Reid. If you don't want a carbon tax making your food, electricity, and home heating any more expensive than it already is, go to stopthecarbontax.com and sign our petition.